Hi guys, I'm back. And as you can see, we have the two we did last time, and we've got another little one right here. I just played around with the paints after I cut the camera off, and I just made this real simple little blue one, just to see, how it would look with just one solid color in it, and they look pretty both ways. But what you can do with these teeny tiny ones right here, what I did with one of them, I have this one and I have another one, I actually put it in a little frame. So I just cut it off. These were two side by side, and I cut them off and just put it in a cute little frame, and there you go. There's you a piece of desk art. You can kind of see how pretty and shiny the colors are. The black obviously is not going to be shiny because it was just the plain tube paints or the pouch paints. So it's not going to have a shimmeriness to it. But I thought that was kind of cute. So I also took the other one that we did, the bigger one, and I put that in a frame as well. And it's kind of neat too. Let's see if you guys are in focus. There we go. So, the only thing I would do with this is take it back out and put my little initials in the corner, most likely in a real pale color. And yeah, those are good to go. So these are for sale if anybody's interested. Or, obviously you can make your own in whatever colors you want. But I thought those were super, super cute. So back to these. We've got the black, and then we've got the white one. Now the white one, I was going to cut it up and make a pendant out of it, but I just don't have the heart to cut this thing into pieces. I took my template to it. I took my big template to it, and yeah, it would work. We could do one like that where we have just a little bit of the green and then like the flower, so to speak, on it. But then you'd lose all these pretty leaves, these big leaves, and I just kind of like it. So I'm going to leave that. We'll probably put it in a little frame at a later date, or possibly you could cut it out and like glue it down to a piece of wood and then pour resin over it, something like that. I didn't do white all the way to the edges, so my edges aren't real clean. And I don't want to go back with the white, although it would probably be fine. Especially if you're going to pour resin over it. Resin tends to hide little defects. So we're not going to cut into this one today. What we are going to cut into are these two babies. And this one would be really pretty in a little frame too, so I hate to cut into it. But this was the whole idea, was to create some of these pretty littles that we could make jewelry into. So I've got a variety of bezels here. This is a new one that I found. I only bought a couple of them because I had to order them from, I want to say, China. And I didn't know how big they were going to be. When I ordered these, I actually thought they were this size. I don't know what made me think that. I just didn't do my math correctly. So I have a bunch of these. I don't really care for these nearly as much as these. This is a nice size for a pendant. This is a little big for me. But I have cut out quite a few pieces of art and put them in the bigger ones. And they look kind of neat. So I'll show you a couple of those. We already cut out, these were the pieces that I had done before, when I was experimenting for this. So you can kind of see they're going to look pretty cool. So I've just got them set off to the side. We're going to pour resin in those later. And you can kind of see this one is a little black frame, little black bezel. So it was just a little tiny piece that I couldn't really do much with, but it turned out kind of neat. I think it'll really look pretty once the resin is poured over it. And then we also have this shape bezel where there's no black negative space around it. I hope you guys are seeing these. I can't see my camera at the moment, so I don't know if hopefully you're in focus. Anyway, so no black negative space in this one. And then we've got this one where we do have some black negative space. And we also have this one. And then we've got the one with the sort of orangey color. I think that was the background color is the strawberry. So I think once we get resin in that, it's going to look pretty cool. And then we've got some teeny tiny skinny ones. These are a real popular shape with people. They tend to like these. And we had just a little bit left over. So I just thought I'll put them in some long skinny ones because I think they look kind of neat with the negative space beside them and just sort of peeking out. I don't know. I thought they were kind of neat. So we're going to make one more of these today with the black, I believe. Either the black one with the colors or that one. I'm not sure which. And so I have my templates here. And these you can see, they're just paint samples that I cut out for the big ones. And then for my little ones, I just took these are the cardboard cutouts behind the bezels. So, you know, you buy the bezel connected to the cardboard cutout here. And then I just cut around the basic shapes. I put this down on here, drew around it, and then I did another smaller drawing, another line right inside of there, and then cut the inner circle because, you know, you have the width of the outer edge of the bezel. So, so then I have my pieces that I cut out. So what we're going to do is we take this, and if you're really careful with some of these, you can actually get a couple of pendants out of each piece of artwork. So this one, I think we're going to do a big one on the black right there, probably about there. And I also realized that if I played my cards right, I could put this one here, and then I could put this one along this edge. So I can get 3 pieces out of here. So I'm going to show you the first one, and then I'll just do the other 2 off camera. So what I like to do is, you know, you can move it around. I mean, any spot on this one. See, that would be cool. Even down here, that would be great. But since I want to get 3 pieces out of this one, and I really like that top, I don't want to cut off too much of the, I don't mind cutting those top little tendrils off, but I want to keep these edges here as much as possible. So I think that's where we're going to cut it out. So I'll hold on to this. I'll take my other little, you know, my circle that fits the bezel. I'll set it on top, hold it down, and then we're going to take nice sharp little scissors, real thin. And first I'm going to make sure that this is going to fit over here. And it is. So we're going to have that pendant there. And then we're going to have another one maybe over here, just catching a little bit of the leaves. I think it might be kind of cute. So what I first do is I cut carefully around as close to my thing as possible, but not quite all the way, so that I can just sort of throw this off to the side so I don't damage it when I'm cutting, or I don't cut too far accidentally into it because I want to save it. So then we're just going to take our scissors and we're going to cut up to the edge of that little template. Now you want to make your template out of cardboard stock or, you know, something thick, because you want your scissors to sort of be able to balance against it and not cut into it. And I say that, but every once in a while I will cut into my little template and I have to make a new one. And they take a while to create for me because I'm such a perfectionist. If there's just the slightest bit of bezel showing underneath it, I can't take it. So I've got to redo it. Now, that having been said, with this black background, if you happen to cut just a little bit too far inside and you put your little circle there into your bezel and you can see some of the bezel underneath it, because you have this black background, if you just take a little black paintbrush and paint just around this inner edge, you'll never know it, that it's not part of the painting once you put resin in it. You never know it. So, you know, for you guys, it doesn't have to be perfect. I've done that once or twice. But you can sit here all day long, which I have done. Walk away from the table half blind. Usually I have a headache when I'm done. Because my eyesight is so bad, it's hard for me to stare really closely at it. And there you go. So move that out of the way so you can see how pretty that little circle is. So we're going to take our bezel and we're going to see if it fits. And a lot of times, it doesn't fit perfectly. So clearly you can see it's not fitting quite perfectly. So you're going to look, you want to find the edge that fits perfectly in there. And then you're just going to sort of adjust. And you want to kind of mash it in there, but don't mash it in there too hard because sometimes they will get stuck in there. And that way you can kind of see. So, like I said, I'm going to trim this off camera because it might take me a few minutes and I need to really get close to it. So I won't be able to really show you very well on camera. So we'll be right back and I will cut out the other shapes and we'll go from there. Okay, so you can see that I have cut out 4 different shapes. I didn't have enough of an edge left of this one, so I cut out a piece of blue, and it's off center, which kind of bothers me a little bit, but it's kind of neat still. So I'm going to leave it. If you create one of these and you decide you're not really fond of it, but it's kind of neat, set it aside. Don't pour resin in it, because you can always take another piece later and cover it over and then pour resin over it. Because these bezels, most of these bezels are deep enough where you can put 2 layers of paper on them and they'll be just fine. You'll still have plenty of room to pour resin over them. So this one I'm probably not going to pour resin over today. I'm probably going to set that one aside because I'm not real sure about it. I'm really not fond of it. So probably not going to use that one. So we're just going to go ahead and take that one out. But I've gone ahead and glued down this one and this one. I used the blue for the teardrop shape, and I think this one turned out really cool. I can't wait to see what that one looks like with the resin in it. But I haven't glued down this one yet because I wanted to show you guys. Now these bezels, this particular one that I got has this, they're called antique finish, so they've got this sort of black, it's almost like shoe polish. I don't know what it is. It's just some kind of finish they put in there to make it look antique-y. If you don't like it, you can, you want to use the bezel, you can always take a toothpick and just sort of scrape it out. It comes out real easily. But we've got this piece here. So I've cut it out. It's nice and you kind of move your little piece around, see, how exactly you want your composition before you glue it in there. You can pretty much do it anyway. Kind of looks neat like that, kind of going off to the side there. I don't know. You can do it upside down. It's kind of neat. I don't know. Not real thrilled about that composition. That one's kind of neat. So I really don't know how to do this one. Probably just, like this. Or maybe let's turn it a little bit more. Kind of like that maybe. I don't know. You're all probably yelling at me. You probably like it different ways. I don't really know. If it gets stuck, bang it on the table. It'll pop out. Sometimes you have to bang it for a little while to get it to pop out of there. I don't know. I think I kind of like that composition. So I've got my diamond glaze. This is what I always use to glue down all of my papers or paintings, whatever, onto my bezels. This works really great and it dries clear. So if you get a little bit of your super glue on top of your painting, no big deal. As soon as you pour resin over it, it's going to hide it completely. It's just going to turn invisible. So I just make sure you always keep this covered. Put your top back on as soon as you do one bezel because it does dry out really fast. It is super glue. And I just sort of scrape it all over the place, get a nice coating over it, and then I want to make sure I run it along the outside edge. You want to make sure that your outside edge is completely covered in super glue, because if you don't have that nice sort of barrier there, what's going to happen is your super glue is going to go underneath, not your super glue, sorry, your resin is going to go underneath of your paper, and it's going to create air bubbles. And just kind of mash that down. Now what I like to do is I take a washcloth so that I don't get too much glue on my fingers. And I'll go along the outer edge because it'll squeeze out some of the super glue. And it'll also kind of push down your... And I'll kind of give it a view. I don't know if you can see any of this. You can kind of see where there's some super glue on the surface. Like I said, it will not matter at all. And I like to take my thumbnail and just kind of mash down along the edges where I see maybe it's not quite flat. And you get some super glue on your fingernails, just wipe it off on the rag. Now this diamond glaze is really good about if you, you know, because last time I did this, I probably glued down about 50 bezels. So I had it all over my fingertips. If you just run your fingers into some warm water and let them soften up, and you just kind of rub the glue off, it comes off way easier than like traditional super glue. So, you know, don't worry if you get it. And you can scratch it right off your fingernails. It comes off pretty easy. I don't know about painted fingernails, but you're on your own there. Because I don't paint my fingernails, so I don't know. Okay, so there we go. It's glued down. So what I like to do with these, I like to leave them overnight to dry because, make sure you guys are still actually in the picture there. I like to glue them down and then leave them overnight, because if I don't, the super glue on the top edge will dry in a matter of minutes, but the super glue under the paper, sometimes it takes a while longer. I don't know how much longer, but I had one sitting here the other day, and I went to peel it up, and it just peeled right up. So give them a day to really cure, and then we can pour the resin. So we'll be back when these are dry, when they're cured, when the super glue is all nice and dry and hard, and then we'll pour some resin. Okay, so we're back with our pendants. We've got, it was this one, and that one. They have dried, so they should be good to go, all ready to pour resin over. And you see I've got them sitting on these blocks because the catches on the tops of these bezels sometimes are a bit more rounded towards the back side of the pendant. So they will raise your pendant up and make your pendant sort of skewed, not level, and then your resin will not dry level in your pendant. So make sure you have the catches off to the side of something above your surface. I've got resin here. I use the same resin. You guys know what resin I use. And I've got the two parts here. I usually don't mix it on camera, but I'm just going to show you real quick. I will take the resin, which is the thin clear part, and then the hardener. Make sure you get it all out of there. I'm going to actually leave just a hint in there because I had just a hint too much of this in this little cup. I have just a hint less of the hardener, so I want to there's stuff in my cup. Okay, let's get the stuff out of the cup real quick. There's two little black dots in there. I have no idea where those came from. Should have been a clean cup, but okay, so this is a really good lesson. Make sure your cups are really clean. Okay, so we've got the two little spots out of there. I don't know where they came from. And so this is the hardener. The hardener is way stickier, so you need to make sure you really scrape your cup when you're getting this out. Because if you don't, you will not have the correct ratio. This is a 1-to-1 ratio of resin to hardener. Very easy. You don't have to weigh anything. Make sure your measurements are exactly. I'm sure my measurements aren't exact, but I haven't ever had a problem with this resin. So just make sure you get every last little bit, as much as you can, out of this little bitty cup. That should be good. And then you're going to take your resin and you're going to stir it. Don't stir it so fast, because the faster you stir it, the more air bubbles you're going to create. And because these pendants are so shallow, it's not really that big of a deal because your torch is going to take them all out. But you really do have to babysit your pendants for quite a while. I tend to babysit mine for several hours because every once in a while you'll walk away after babysitting for maybe half an hour to an hour. You just come back every 15 minutes, and if you see air bubbles, just take a quick torch to it. Sometimes you can pop them with a little toothpick, and or just by blowing some warm breath on them will also pop the air bubbles. And you see there's tons of air bubbles in here, but that's okay. Now you're going to mix this for 2 minutes. You're supposed to pour it into another cup and then mix it again. I have done that in the past, and I have also not done that in the past. And Either way seems to work just fine with me, as long as I'm making sure to scrape the sides. But you are supposed to pour it into another cup and continue mixing after two minutes, and then just stir it up for an additional minute or two. That's the official, but I haven't found that real necessary, so I just make sure I scrape, make sure you get around the little edges in the cup real well. And I do take my pendants, once the glue has dried, the super glue has dried, or the diamond glaze, I take them and I take a bottle of the air duster that you use for your computers, and I blow on them because there's always dust on these little things, and I can't seem to keep it off of them. So that's another tip. Also, if you want to avoid dust, which is almost impossible, I've never been able to avoid the dust. But if you'll put a real super thin layer down first and then come back. If you come back while the resin is cured but it's still tacky, you can pour a second layer of resin on and you won't have to worry about sanding the coating of your resin. But if you leave it, you put a small coat on there, real thin, and then you come back like a week later and it's cured completely by then, you're going to have to sand your surface so that your top layer of resin that you're about to pour is actually going to stick to it. So I'm pretty sure we've been mixing for at least 2 minutes. My resin is nice and clear. You can kind of tell it changes from cloudy to clear. Of course, it looks kind of cloudy because it's full of air bubbles, but I know my resin is very well mixed. So the only thing I do is use my little stick, and I'm going to slowly, very in small amounts, because you really have no idea how much this resin spreads. It just spreads like crazy. As soon as you take the heat to it, it's really going to spread. So put less resin in there than you think you're going to need. And then you take your torch to it. And the torch will not only pop the air bubbles, but it will also spread your resin out to the edges. So just keep an eye on it. I'm not going to pour any more resin into that one because it is spreading. I don't want to pick up my bezel and move it around. To get it to the edges, you can take a clean toothpick. That works really well. And just sort of push it over a little bit to the edges. And that way, once you kind of look at it from the side view, you can see if there's a slight dome to your resin. And if there's not, just add a pinch more. But do not overdo it, because all your resin will spill over your bezel and it will not be pretty. And another tip, do your resin in small batches, and always have extras waiting to go. I have plenty of extras just in case I have a little bit of leftover resin, so always have your extras ready. Because a lot of times you'll be mixing resin and you don't know exactly how much, like I don't know how much this new type of pendant holds. So I don't want to make too much resin. You can always mix up more because this resin is really good. It lasts for 45 minutes to an hour working time. So, okay, so we've got that one filled in. Move it over. Make sure none of your bezels are touching each other. That way, in case one of them overflows, it will be okay, and it won't destroy your other bezels. Because once it pours out, resin spreads a mile, and you'll be sorry because it will flow under all your other bezels. Now, with this particular bezel, it's really easy just to. I use my pocket knife and kind of peel the resin off the back of it. But with this particular bezel right here, the resin sticks to the back of it. Like glue, you can't get it off no matter what you do. So if you don't want to have to deal with resin mess, take your little toothpick and just sort of move it around. And you can always put just a dab of resin more in there if you need to, but you can never take it away. And you can see, we'll leave that sort of like this. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can kind of see how shimmery it's looking under the resin. Prettier than it was. So I think these are going to be really super pretty. So I'm going to put you guys on pause for a second. I'm going to fill in all of my bezels, and then we'll come back and you can see them. Okay, so I have poured resin in all of those. Plus I've added a couple more just because I had a little bit of leftover resin. And you never, ever want to waste any leftover resin. So that's why I say always make sure you have a bunch on hand just in case. These little ones right here, those will be earrings. These two obviously go with this pendant. So I have a few sets that will become pendant plus earrings. But mostly I just make the pendants because they're a little easier. But so I've probably torched them already while I'm pouring all the resin in a good 10 or 15 times at least. And I will continue over the next probably 2 hours to come in here and check them. At least over the next half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, I will continue to torch them every 15 minutes or so, very lightly. I'll also come in, if you look off to the side, you know, you kind of, from an angle, you can see whether or not you've got dust sitting on the top of them. So make sure you've got a box top ready to set over top of them when you're done pouring, so that all the dust moving around from your dogs running through the kitchen and your kids all over the place, make sure you keep these covered other than when you are torching them and checking for dust. But I think they look pretty good. Hopefully none of them will spill over. Now I do want to mention real quick while we're here. Now if your resin happens to go over the side, with this particular bezel, the resin sometimes goes over onto the metal. I will take a toothpick and I will, if that happens, I will go ahead and shove just a little bit. If you just barely, gently kind of push it to the edge of the bezel and not over, the edge will have that, can't think of the word at the moment, of course, I had it in my head a minute ago. The surface tension will not cause it to go over if you don't push it too far. So you can very carefully do that. So I guess we could come back when they're all dry and you guys can take a look at them. I just wanted to show you real quick, sort of from the side angle, you can kind of see how we have sort of a dome effect. And you can also see how those bezel, the hooks right there, those little things on the end, you can see how those are not flat. So if you lay that on something, say you lay these flat on the table to pour the resin in, they're going to dry crooked. Okay. That one is looking really cool. And those as well. That little orange one right there, I can see a million little air bubbles, so I need to torch it again. That one was actually from a painting I did in the very beginning when I first started this paint pouring thing, and my dog chewed the corner of it. So, needless to say, those three are from paintings that we cut up. And then that little pair of earrings is also from a painting as well. Okay, so we'll be back once this is all cured. Okay, so here we are 24 hours later. The resin has cured and we've got some really pretty pieces. The metallics on the black turned out super, super pretty. As you guys could see from this little framed piece I showed you at the end of the last video. Look how pretty that is. That is such a cute little piece of art. I might have to do some more of those. I like those. So one of the best pieces to come out of this was this one. It is just so neat. I love this one. And we'll show you a couple of these. This one, of course, is the one with the strawberry background. And then this one, obviously, is the black background with the metallics. Super cool. And then these two are two of the ones that we poured a little while ago. And they both turned out really cool. And this one and this one, these were paintings that I did. This was a painting that got messed up because I set two paintings together and they got stuck, and when I peeled them apart, they pulled off some of the paint. So, and then this one was just done on a piece of photo paper. And you see how the gold in it is shimmering. Really cool. And let's go with these little pieces here. They turned out neat. This one was one of the experiment pieces, and it turned out really cool. I like it. And this was a painting. I think it was actually done on it was a swipe on just a little card. And then this is the color is way off on this one. It was, it's more of a pale pumpkin color, orange. It just, my phone doesn't do well with the oranges and reds. And then we got this piece that has the earrings that are going to go with it. And the earrings turned out perfect. Really lovely dome to them. This one, it has one teeny tiny little air bubble in it right there. So you can kind of see it when you tilt it and it catches the light, just barely. But you can just hardly see that at all. So when you're wearing it, nobody's going to notice that. I think they turned out really cool. And these three pieces, they're just real simple, but kind of neat. Just the edges of the teeny tiny chain pulls. And of course we've got another pair of earrings, and those were from the same painting that that one down there from that same painting. Sorry, I'm holding up too far, you can't see it. And I think the only one, I don't know if we showed you the green one. The green one is pretty. The green and white backgrounds are very sort of subtle. They're pale, they're pastel almost, very Eastery, very springtime. And then I think last but definitely not least, this is actually my favorite of the entire group, is this one, the teardrop shape. And you can see how big that is. It's probably about, oh, let's see, a little over an inch across by about almost 2 inches tall with the ring on the top of it. So that's a pretty substantial pendant, but really so pretty. I love this one. Even the husband loved this one. He said I was going to have to do more of these. So definitely some more of these in my future. Whether they're on camera or off camera, I do not know. So if you guys want to see more of the tiny chain pulls, let me know and I'll do more on camera. But they're a lot of fun to do. They turn out really neat. You just have to do a little bit of experimenting to get the consistencies of your paint correct. Making sure, one paint is not too thick, another paint is not too thin. There really is a balance that you have to find. But these pendants I will let sit on the table for about a week, and then they'll be ready to go. I also create chains to go with them. I don't have any to show you right now, but yeah, I can create necklaces to go with these. Some people like to just buy the pendant and supply their own chain. So either way. But I just want to thank everyone for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I definitely enjoyed making it and creating all these beautiful pieces. And I want to thank you in advance for watching the ads. You guys check out all the Arteza links below. Check out their website and their YouTube channel. A lot of great inspiration there. Great ideas. And as I said before, if you purchase products through my Arteza links below, then it's kind of like you're donating to my channel. I get a teeny tiny bit of your purchase. So, but again, if you'd like to just donate to my channel, my PayPal link is below. My website's below. I need to update that probably in the springtime. That will come. I'm taking down paintings. I'll be putting up pendants. So, so check me out. And as always, I love you all. And wherever you're on the planet, I hope you're having a lovely day. See you later. Bye.